The term bulkhead is defined as a partition separating compartments, usually seen in ships to prevent flooding, a retaining wall alongside a waterfront, or the framework for cellar doors. However, in the world of the Transformers, a large and lovable Autobot is the first thing fans think of with the character smashing in with the name Bulkhead.
Come on, best 2 out of 3. Time for the big guns!
I'd like to thank my patrons and my channel members for your continued support. Consider becoming one or purchase some merch on my spring store today. In Transformers Energon, an Autobot transforming into an attack helicopter was released in 2004. Instead of using the toy line's gimmick of power linking with other Autobots, the figure came packaged with a transforming artillery drone, complete with lights and sounds and stylized after ED-209.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
Attached to the figure in helicopter mode, it acted as a pair of thrusters, while in robot mode it attached to his back to form a bulky brute mode. As such, he became the first Transformers character to use the name Bulkhead. In robot mode, Bulkhead himself was fashioned after the G1 triple changer, Springer, and his face was inspired by Paul Tuttle Sr. from American Chopper. In the Transformers Energon cartoon, Optimus Prime led the Autobots through a rift in space created by Unicron. To ensure their safety, Cybertron sent the seasoned Autobot veteran Bulkhead alongside 2 young soldiers, Downshift and Cliffjumper. Upon finding Prime, Bulkhead and his crew joined in the fight against the Decepticons in their quest to pilfer Energon to revive Unicron. Voiced by French Tickner, Bulkhead was a cackling old coot who laughed in the face of danger.
Yeah, I still got it!
His positive attitude helped boost morale when the Autobots needed it most.
Right you are! And with friends like you, we'll be okay!
Gleefully blasting Decepticons with his hip-mounted cannons, and with a little extra firepower from his brute mode, Bulkhead's skills in battle frequently even the odds. Despite his name coming from his brute mode, many believe that the name Bulkhead did not fit the character. With a personality as a more jovial version of Cup, and a robot mode that resembles Springer, the Japanese version of Energon, Transformers Superlink, called the character Sprung, which in fact was the Japanese name for Springer. Superlink also used the classic G1 transformation sound effect whenever he transformed with his brute mode. Development for a planned successor to the Unicron trilogy, initially named Transformers Hero, was geared to be a more stylized take on the franchise. It even used the Energon Bulkhead as an example as to where it was going. As the series changed to Transformers Animated, the late Derek J. Wyatt was brought on as the show's art director, experimenting on creating new characters for the series in addition to many familiar faces. Drawing inspiration from Crunch from the mighty Autobots, a new version of Bulkhead was the very first character created, with no ties to previous Transformers series, as his stylized look became the basis of all characters used throughout the show. Voiced by Bill Fagerbakke, Bulkhead was a goofy but lovable giant whose clumsiness often caused him to break stuff, much to the chagrin of his fellow Autobots.
All people want me to do is break stuff. I got a sensitive side too, you know. Breaking stuff is kind of fun.
Beginning life as an Energon farmer, with dreams of becoming a space bridge technician, Bulkhead attended Autobot boot camp, where his clumsiness gave his name meaning.
You're all bulk and no brains! You're Bulkhead!
It was there that Bulkhead befriended Bumblebee, who covered for the Big Oaf's tendency to wreck stuff. This ultimately led to his dream coming true, as he and Bumblebee joined Optimus Prime in repairing space bridges before the crew came to Earth. Taking an Earth mode of an armored SWAT vehicle, Bulkhead did his best to make use of his skills despite his clumsiness against the various human threats, and of course the Decepticons.
You talk too much.
To help Bulkhead and his fellow Autobots integrate into Earth's culture, they befriended Sari Sumdak, who introduced Bulkhead to art and music.
See, Ratchet? Art can save people.
Despite getting into disagreements with Bumblebee from time to time, Bulkhead had a few spotlight adventures. These included rescuing Sorry from Soundwave, resulting in the Decepticon getting smashed into pieces, losing his head to the Headmaster unit until his fellow Autobots came to his rescue,
Something's not right here.
and spending time with the Constructicons. Since Bulkhead saw the best in everyone, it took a lot of courage for him to realize the Constructicons were not to be trusted.
Get away! Don't hurt us, please!
You should have thought of that before you got in tight with Megatron!
However, all the time he spent learning about space bridges made him Cybertron's leading expert, resulting in his capture by the Decepticons. After Megatron forced Bulkhead to repair it, the Decepticon leader never expected to be transwarped himself.
Stop staring at me. No, you stop staring at me.
Bulkhead continued the rest of the series, using his expertise in space bridges to eventually help bring down the Decepticons once and for all. As one of the main characters of Transformers Animated, several toys were made of Bulkhead, including a Voyager-class figure that featured an auto-transforming gimmick in addition to wrecking balls that can launch from his hands. A Leader-class figure was also produced with several additional weapons, and a Headmaster unit that can activate specific lights and sounds. With the popularity of the live-action films, this version of Bulkhead was named Ironhide in Japan, which forced the animated version of Ironhide to be named Armorhide. To go along with his appearance in the War for Cybertron games, Ironhide was originally going to appear in the next animated series, Transformers Prime, in 2010. Unfortunately, the live-action movie Ironhide was set to meet his end at the hands of Sentinel Prime in Dark of the Moon the following year. As such as to not confuse younger fans who are only familiar with the live-action films, the choice was made to take the now popular animated character of Bulkhead and add him to the core cast of Autobots in Transformers Prime instead. This new version of Bulkhead, voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson,
What's on the activities list?
was a kind-hearted gentle giant that, unlike his clumsy animated counterpart, specialized in smashing stuff.
Fowler's lounging around some poolside cabana.
Bulkhead, I needed that!
Before joining Optimus Prime's team, Bulkhead was part of the Autobot commando unit, the Wreckers. Upon arriving on Earth, Bulkhead used mass shifting to transform his bulky frame into an SUV.
After a long road trip, it feels good to get out of the car, stretch my legs, and kick some tailpipe.
And his wrecking ball hand would often clash with Decepticons, especially his longtime rival Breakdown. Despite their many clashes,
Mine's bigger.
it certainly came as a surprise when Bulkhead chose to do something greater than himself when he rescued the brutish Decepticon from the hands of the human terrorist organization known as Mech. Bulkhead became close friends with the Autobots' human ally, Miko Nakadai, an energetic punk rock girl whose love for adventure sometimes put Bulkhead in dire straits. However, their bond of friendship was heavier than metal.
I love that song!
And the two were more than eager to reunite with Bulkhead's former wrecker buddy, Wheeljack, who was pleased to see the big guy was in good hands.
Good to see you, kid. Safe to assume we're the only 3 wreckers around?
So what are we waiting for? Let's do some damage.
During the quest to retrieve the lost Cybertronian relics, Bulkhead came close to meeting his end as he battled the Insecticon Hardshell over a shard of toxic energon. Fortunately, Ratchet was able to save him from his injuries, though it took time for Bulkhead to fully recover. Facing off against the Decepticons and the mighty Predaking, Bulkhead formed a new team of wreckers alongside Wheeljack, Miko, and Ultra Magnus. While the new team was formidable,
Who's wrecking who now?
Bulkhead spent much of his time playing peacemaker between the ever-serious Magnus and the loner Wheeljack. After helping the Autobots restore Cybertron, Bulkhead returned to Earth per Optimus Prime's instructions in Prime's sequel series, Robots in Disguise, in 2017. Finding Bumblebee and his crew infected with a nanotech virus from the Decepticon Wing Code, Bulkhead teamed up with Grimlock.
I think part of the problem is we're not really thinkers. Yeah, not so much.
As the two devised a plan to take down the Decepticon vampire. Bulkhead remained on Earth helping Bumblebee battle against Steeljaw, and fought alongside Optimus Prime to stop a Cybertronian invasion of Earth. Like his animated counterpart, the aligned version of Bulkhead received numerous figures over the years in various toy lines. This included a redeco that resembled one of the Autobot wreckers, Roadbuster. Although the first time the name Bulkhead was used in the Transformers franchise began with the old Coot helicopter and Energon, most Transformers fans think of either the clumsy but lovable Autobot in Animated or the gentle giant and former wrecker in Prime. The popularity of both versions of the character were integrated into the IDW comics, as Bulkhead was part of Cybertron's engineering guild in the early days of the war. Years later, he would eventually be one of the many new recruits trained by Springer to be part of the next iteration of the Wreckers. While Bulkhead has become a popular character in his own right, it comes to no surprise that, like Rhinox, some have compared him to both Ironhide and Hound.
Too much lip, Wheeljack, not enough action.
This may have played a part in the development for the live-action film's version of Hound, who seems to take inspiration from both the animated and Prime versions of Bulkhead.
I'm like a fat ballerina who takes stabs and slits throats.
It also may have led to some confusion as to how the character has been portrayed in other media, but that is a discussion for another day.
Lucky my sensors can track old Mr. Invisible, or it'd be a tough act to follow.
The newest figure for Bulkhead came in 2022's Transformers Legacy toy line. Although billed as part of the Prime universe, this Bulkhead combines elements from both Prime and Animated, as he transforms into a military transport truck. As part of Legacy's theme, Bulkhead can now fit in with almost any Transformers series, as he can wreck with the best of them, so long as he keeps away from any important Autobot equipment. Speaking of which, a redeco of this figure came as part of the Amazon exclusive Wreck and Rule collection. Joining back up with the Wreckers with the hammer he acquired after defeating Breakdown, Bulkhead now sports a forest camo paint job that purposely draws inspiration from the live-action version of Hound. Even though the term Bulkhead has an altogether different meaning, and that some may feel that the character introduced in Transformers Energon was incorrectly named, Bulkhead has become one of the more popular new characters within the 21st century. From the clumsy space bridge technician in Animated, to the gentle giant wrecker in Prime, and now more adventures across various Transformers universes, the Big Bruiser Bulkhead will continue smashing down barriers to bring older and newer Transformers fans together for many years to come.
You think I should tell him that one was kind of an accident?
What they don't know won't hurt them.
I'd invite you in, but the place is a mess.
But what do you think? Does Bulkhead fit in well with any Transformers series? And what is your favorite version of the character? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe. I have many more Transformers videos like this coming soon, so stay tuned. And as always, until next time, till all are one.
Innocent vehicles battling for the pleasure of human spectators? Bloodsport.
Yeah!